we go. All right. Hi everybody. If you don't already know me, I'm Emily Whitehouse. I go by Cyphorian on most social media services. I am a Gundam builder and a Twitch streamer, and I build Gunpla on Twitch. What I do. I also was one of the many entrants into the Gundam Builders World Cup this weekend here at Anime Expo. One of the few people I know are in the audience as well. I was lucky enough to take home Best Alternate Universe piece with this PG. Reason why I'm doing this. There we go. PG 00. Please enjoy Nausea Cam throughout the entire panel. So this, oh, there we go. Okay. So this is Gunpla building tips and tricks. I'm going to try to do a little bit of just, newcomer stuff on how to make your kits look awesome. If you've been building for years, you probably know a lot of this, but you might pick up something already. It's always good to hear information from other different sources, so good to learn. I do have a wonderful selection of price support from Bluefin Distribution and Secret Weapon Miniatures that I will be handing out near the end of the panel for some way. Haven't quite decided that yet. We were discussing it earlier, and I'm like, I have no idea. Somebody bribe me. Who wants to bribe me for this RG tall geese?
I got quarters for the.
Look, he's Milliardo Peacecraft now. It's fine. All right, so let's get this party started. Oh great, now OBS isn't working. There we go. Okay, so the most basic tool that you can have in your arsenal are nippers, clippers, part cutters, whatever the hell you want to call these wonderful little things. There are a variety of different types that you can get for various different price ranges. These are the Harbor Freight ones that are like $4. They're fucking great. If they break, throw them in the trash, buy another one. It's $4. Who cares? You can get similar ones from Walmart for like $10. Or if you are a complete obsessive weeb, you can buy the God Hands for around $60. These I actually do really like them. They make a nice flush cut. You don't have to clean it up too much, but they break super fucking easily. By the way, I curse a lot, and I'm sorry if that offends you. Yeah, like seriously, this is pretty much an 18 plus panel, even though it isn't. So, okay, good. Yeah, so these ones I broke. This is my second pair of God Hands, actually. Both of them I've broken by dropping them onto the floor of my office. They do have this wonderful little protector cap that comes with them, which is great if you remember to use it. But with these cheap ass ones, fuck it. So yeah, if you're just starting out, buy the cheapest ones. Use a nail clipper. Nail clippers work fine. It's what I did on my first MGs 18 years ago. When the hell did Wing come out here? It was like 2000, right? Yeah. Yeah. That's how old I am. Is I built Wing kits back when they came out, and you bought them in Walmart. So the other important tool that you don't want to lose is your hobby knife. Get a sharp one. If the blade starts to dull, throw it out. Because if it's too dull when you're using it, you are more prone to slippage, and then you're going to cut yourself, which you'll do a much worse cut than if it's sharp. Because you will cut yourself. Everyone cuts themselves. Try not to bleed on your models. Everyone bleeds on their models. Well, if you get a wet brush onto that, you can kind of line it in. It gets a really nice panel line effect. Yeah, adds a little bit of ferrousness to it if you want to start magnetizing your bits. And lastly, but not least, is sandpaper. Buy fucking sandpaper. It's godsend. It's clean snubs. it is one of the few God Hand products I will actually recommend to newcomers is these little packs of sandpaper, because these are $4 and they will last you several builds. But they're also conveniently disposable and super easy to just use because they're just little bendy things of sandpaper. It's pretty great. Um, get like 240 to 600, which is what comes in one of these packs. That will clean pretty much any nub. Anything higher than 10,000, than 1,000 up to 10,000 is just for polishing. If you've got a stubborn mold line on a piece, like my Costra here had a whole bunch of defects from the actual casting process, where you'd see lines in the flat panels, where even though there shouldn't be a panel line there, you can kind of see this weird discoloration. And that will sometimes show through primer, or if you're not priming it, you're just dull coating or just airbrushing it straight on, like some weird people do with their goofs. Then it will come through in that, and you want to make sure you sand it down a little bit and polish it and get it nice and smooth, make it nice and pretty. It's especially true if you're doing something where you're just gonna fucking dull coat it. This Geno Ace is my, I don't care about this model. It's a garbage kit. It's a stupid design. I don't care if you like H. But this kit is only dull coated, and I will get into how I did the panel lines on that in a few minutes, because it's weird and people are constantly questioning what the fuck am I doing when I do it like this. But we're going to go into a little bit of an advanced technique. This is seam welding. Seam welding is where you've got a panel line on a piece and you need it to not be there, which is usually a join connection. So on a HE Zaku, it's along this line here, because the front armor and the back armor are two separate pieces. To take care of that, you need to either use plastic glue, which is the glue that melts HIPS plastic, high impact polystyrene, which 90% of your Gundam is made of. The rest of it is ABS, which is, I don't know. Does anyone fucking remember what ABS means? It's too late. It's a different type of styrene. But that will fuse the two parts together, which will give you a mostly clean line. You'll then need to sand over that to get it fully smooth. Your other option is to just super glue it together and then using a little bit of Mr. Dissolve Putty. The Mr. Hobby line is fantastic. Mr. Dissolve Putty is so fumy. Make sure you open a window, wear a respirator, or just enjoy the Gunpla. The last option is, I haven't really seen it used much in Gunpla as compared to IPMS and tabletop modeling, is use wood putty. You super glue the part, you throw some wood putty in there, you smooth it out, you sand it out, it primes great. It's glue with wood flakes in it. It's super cheap. You buy it at Home Depot. I do a lot of stuff with model building where it's just simply go to Home Depot, buy random crap, repurpose it. Like this whole base on the 00 here is entirely made of foam insulation and drywall putty. Just the stuff that you spackle on the walls when you put a hole in it. Like if you screw up putting a frame in the wall or you get really pissed one night and you just need a patch over that. You mix it up, you crinkle it together. I throw a little bit of pigment into it to give it the right coloring, and then if it breaks or chips or anything, it chips in that color. Otherwise it chips white, and then everybody knows that you just use drywall compound on that. I also say a lot, so it's a tick, I guess. Come on. There we go. Painting. Painting is not for everybody. You don't need to paint your Gunpla if you don't want to. It's as simple as that. They do look better once they're painted in almost every case. Just don't use stickers. Stickers make the baby Amuro cry. There are two basic ways of painting, and that's hand brushing and airbrushing. I mean, you could just like throw paint like out of the bottle and just like throw it at the kit if that's your style. But generally it's hand painting or it's going to be airbrushing. This little Night Gundam SD, adorable little chibi dude, uh, is entirely hand painted, as you can see in the graphic here. It starts off as this horrible silvery plasticky color, like they try to. I don't know what Bandai thinks when they're doing these sort of coated kits. Half the time they look like garbage unless it's the Yakushiki and they spent all that extra money on the underdating on it. Um, so there's like three things I hate for Gundam, and that's RGs, that's fake edition kits where it's the clear or the metallic ones where they were never designed for that, and all the nubs show up and it looks terrible unless you're like precision, precision, precision. I'm way too lazy for that shit, and I mean, this is the sort of crazy things I did. I spent like 40 hours doing these friggin' lily pads, just boop, boop. But I ain't got time for clean nubs on metallic kits. Um, if you're gonna get into hand brushing, I actually recommend that you pick up some miniatures from tabletop gaming, like some Reaper D&D minis. Practice on those. They're usually pretty cheap. They have a lot of variety in detail in materials that they're trying to represent. And once you get the basics down of trying to get all that detail on a small scale like that, having a canvas as big as a Gundam is just a godsend. Additionally, you then start to appreciate how cheap Gundams are. Because holy shit, Games Workshop, what are you doing? Um, Shameless plug. I have a paint line coming out in a few weeks-ish, months-ish. I don't know when the hell it's actually coming out. The paint's sitting in the warehouse. I'm just waiting for them to bottle it. Uh, that is a Mecha series paint line for Secret Weapon. I am very good friends with the owner of Secret Weapon. I hang out with his family all the time. I've got his kid into Gunpla, which he hates because now he's buying a shit ton of Gunpla and but he wanted to expand his paint line to include more variety than just the current weathering stuff, which is fantastic and is while it is a weathering paint line, it is not intended. It doesn't necessarily need to be. The double O painted with it, that wonderful blue that you see on its shoulders, is intended to be the heat blue for a chrome, like on a motorcycle when you know the chrome starts heating up, you get that beautiful blue color. Yeah, it's this. It's also what's on my nails, at least until they started shipping. Because I love the color. It's a gorgeous color. Look at that beautiful, beautiful blue. Yeah, everybody just turn their head. um, so yeah, that's coming out in the nearest future. God, I hope so, because I could really just use this freaking paint already. I haven't even gotten a sample set myself. Like I designed this paint like 7 months ago. I've known all the colors, all the formulations. I haven't gotten a set yet. I desperately want it. Um, up here on the table, after the show, you're welcome to come grab a card for Secret Weapon. They are handplayed to give out 10% off to everybody here on anything that you order, which includes pigments, paints, bases, all sorts of wonderful things. If you do tabletop gaming, you can get fantastic bases for your army from them. And that's about as much as I'm going to shield them right now because I know I shield them a lot. I really do love them. They're great. Two examples of painted kits here. On the double O, everything is hand painted except for the white base coats for the armor sections because hand painting white is a massive pain in the ass and it's really difficult to get brush strokes to not show up. You can do it. It takes forever. You can also hide it by making your brush strokes look more like wear and tear, which is a bit of what I did onto this Zaku. I have a GM on my Facebook page as well that shows off some really shitty brushwork, but makes it look kind of like weathering. You can kind of see it on the shield here. I'll make that big. Is this even in focus, by the way? Like, oh, I'm not actually. You know what helps is if I actually hit the stupid button to make it big on that side. I'm sorry, folks. It's late. This cosplay is incredibly hot. Who the hell said that this con should be at 106 degrees? Like, ugh. Okay. So let me go ahead and bring Knight back on here so you can see him as well, since you couldn't see him in that tiny screen. I don't know. I guess it's what, like 4 feet over there on the tiny screen, but still. Um. So yeah, the Costra here I have is fully airbrushed. Aside from the sleeves, you can do a reverse wash to get this same basic effect. But again, I'm lazy, so I just hand painted it. I sprayed it white, hand painted the black on. Works great. I used ink for all this, which, as much as I love the Shill Secret Weapons paint line, the Dollar Raleigh acrylic inks that you get from Blick Art Supplies are fantastic for airbrushing. You don't need to thin them, just shoot them through your brush. They work great. I'm happy with it, at least, aside from this part where it's scuffed on transit here. Incidentally, this is the biggest kit that will fit into a table or medium-sized case. So if you decide to get one of those for your Gunpla, I do recommend it, but just don't build anything too big. Panel lines. Grab this guy. So this is the Lodo. This is a garbage kit. It's terrible, absolutely terrible. But you get 2 of them for $10, so that's kind of nice. So I completely repainted this. This was also entirely hand brushed, and then pigmented and weathered and whatnot. So all of the panel lines that you see on here, in addition to all the ones that you see on the Genoese, are done with a mechanical pencil. This is actually the technique that ILM uses for their studio models. Why didn't you go? You go there. Okay. Yeah, this is what ILM uses. So when you go see Star Wars and you see all the wonderful panel lines on the Millennium Falcon, before it was CG, it was mechanical pencils, 0.3 millimeter mechanical pencil. I got this off Amazon for like $5. Great. The Costria as well was all done with mechanical pencil. You can also use thin washes or thin paints or inks. If you get the Tamiya Panaline wash thing, it's just an ink that's really thin. I've used Secret Weapons washes for that. I've used GW's washes for that. You just use a really thin, tiny, very few bristle brush to just get in line and try to not fuck up. You will fuck up. If you fuck up, then use a Q-tip, cotton swab with a little bit of water on it to just kind of clean it up. Act quickly. If you don't act quickly, you'll be sad and you'll have to paint over that whole area and start over again. Don't fuck up. You can additionally pigment powder, especially black or brown pigment powder, depending on the surface area that you're using it, will give you the same basic effect as a panel line wash, but will generally look a little bit nicer and more realistic, depending on what you're trying to go for. Why do you keep doing this to me, OBS? Oh, I'm running this whole presentation through OBS because I don't know any other software really, so I might as well just use this. So all of the mudded in the tracks here that give it that out of focusy panel liney look is weathering pigment. You just brush it in and then go from there. There we go. So when it comes to weathering, less is more. You want to think about how big one of these robots is. I mean, it's not a robot, right? It's a fucking mobile suit, but fuck you, it's a robot. It's 18 they're like 18 meters tall. How is it getting dirt up here? Like, okay, the Lodo is going to get dirt up there because it's a tank and it moves around. But Zaki, come here, Zaki, you're better for this. How is it going to get dirt up here? It's not, unless it fell in a mud pit, and in which case it has bigger problems to worry about, like it had to get towed up. I guess you got to get a crane in. Generally speaking, they're only going to really get muddy or dirty up to about here, because airflow, as it moves, dust will go up, but it's not going to get all the way up. It's only, if it walks through mud, it's only going to splash maybe to the height of the foot. But if it's snow or ice, as I did with this, then you're going to see a lot of it condense up on top, around the shoulders, around areas that don't move much, and that's where you want to focus it. Additionally, I don't know if the camera's even going to pick this up really. You're welcome to come look at all these after the presentation as well and actually see them up in person. Just with your eyes, not with your hands. So look with your hands, look with your eyes. As snow and ice forms on a vehicle, a truck, Gundam, it's going to cause icicles. So you'll see on this piece a number of little icicles down here on the shield, on the feet, on the skirt. Just little details like that enhance your project a lot. So like going back to the Loto here, I mainly only put dirt where it would either get it from walking around in mobile suit mode or from where it would get it for being in tank mode. So on the backs of the armor plates here, on the feet, on the treads. There's a little bit of smoke and whatnot from the exhaust of the beam guns, and then a little bit more here as well from the missile launchers. Oh, right. Sorry, just yell that out to me whenever I'm not doing it. I'm tired and I'm hot and I probably have heat stroke. Uh, so yeah, all along here. Actually, this might help too. Is that better? Yeah. I brought a light. I should probably use it, right? Also, I know that there's this giant television directly in front of me that I can totally see what you guys are seeing, but I don't know. I'm tired. Can I get this panel earlier next year? uh, so yeah, along the treads, along the armor plates here, a little bit of black along the exhaust for the beam guns and along the missile pods here. And then I just added a little bit more soot and whatnot around. Again, though, weathering isn't 100% necessary at all times. This little SD, there's no weathering on this. It's all just non-metallic metals, which non-metallic metals are a weird sort of thing that the tabletop industry loves and takes a lot of fucking hassle to try to do. At some point, I'm going to do a hockey shiki in that style, and I'm going to hate myself the entire time I'm doing it because holy shit, trying to get that light source and just fuck. If you've seen those fantastic painted kits where they look like they're actually just animation cells or they're sketches, that's basically the same technique, just brought up to another level, and those people are crazy. And that is my quickie little tips and tricks section. I am going to go ahead and throw this over back to the big screen so I'm going to just fuck up this Genoa Ace a little bit. I'm going to make a huge mess on the floor by dropping a pack of pigment. Did it fall? Yeah. Yeah, if one of my wonderful assistants in the front row could grab that for me. So I've attached bottle rockets to Gundams. I haven't actually lit one on fire yet, though I do love that piece of art that a friend of mine made, so I use it wherever I can. So yeah, this is cigarette and pigment powder here. It's just pigment powder. I really wish that like this camera would have a better focus system. It really doesn't. I love the C920, but its focus is a pain in the ass. So when you're using these, you just kind of sound effects help. Don't let anybody tell you differently. Sound effects help. and it just brushes on it a little bit. When you're working with these, you want to make sure that you don't have like a ceiling fan turned on right above you, because then you're gonna have a bad time. You should probably also wear a dust mask while doing this, because if you sneeze, you're gonna have a bad time. You should also not just like hold up your mouth and just blow on the model, because you might end up having a bad time. But also blowing right next to a microphone is probably not a good idea either. Just saying. I'm really sorry for everybody who's close to a speaker while doing that. Um, so yeah, you just brush it on a little bit. It just adds a little bit of detail. Makes it look like it's actually done something rather than just come out the factory. Unless that's what you're going for. Like if you want to have the fresh from Zeonic, fresh from Anaheim look, uh, then go nice and glossy. Use a gloss coat after everything, and make it the most shiny new car smell you can. Uh, I would love to see like a little tiny, tiny little like pine tree. You could make it like an actual pine tree and just like put on its head. It's very tourney right there. All right. So I think what I'm going to do with all these wonderful goodies that I have here, if I could get my lovely assistant Tex to come up here and give me a hand real quick. Sure. She's super thrilled by this. Yeah. Everybody give her a round of applause. If you visited the Gundam Builders World Cup, her piece was the Vincent Von Goof, which. All right, so let's get. Did you guys get me a wireless mic? Is he wireless? All right. So this is kind of a workshop, and it is me trying to tell you tips and tricks. So what would you guys like to know? What are you personally having a difficulty with that you want to know how to solve it? In Gunpla. The difficulties of the live panel is later. It's over in 408. You can. Yeah. All right. Let's go right here in the white shirt. What are your problems with life? I just wanted to know, like, what do you recommend for hand brushes, like the brushes themselves? It depends on what I'm doing, but when I'm actually doing paints, I use Army Painter brushes, mainly because they have the nice ergonomic. Oh, thank you. Yes, camera. Um, so Army Painter brushes have this nice ergonomic design to them. It's that wonderful little kind of triangular look to it. Which when you have carpal tunnel or you're starting to develop carpal tunnel like me, it helps a lot. They're a bit more expensive because Army Painter is one of those brands of it's Army Painter. Ooh. But I do seriously enjoy their brushes. Their paints are pretty good too. I do have the entire line of their paints, and I will use them for a number of things. But their brushes are really where I'm happy. Tex, give that man a haro. Oh. So like when I paint, I have a lot of problems with like smear marks. Like I'll paint something and at the end it'll have just like the brush kind of put the line through it. And is that like the brush? That's the paint or the brush. You may need to thin your paint a bit more. You may need to use a different type of paint. That is actually one of the problems I have with Army Painter is that they use a vinyl style paint for their paint, which can harden at different rates. So you may end up having a patch of paint that has hardened before like the outside edges, and you go to brush it and it hasn't adhered, but it has hardened, and so it just kind of smears. Which on the there. So you can kind of see it on if I actually put it on the freaking camera. There's this patch right here on the Lodo where that totally happened to me, and I didn't actually fix it. Um, yeah, I would suggest thinning your paints or switching to a different brand. Reaper paints are one of my favorites, along with Secret Weapons. Um, they're really good paints for hand painting. If you, otherwise, get an airbrush. Um, don't buy the stupid Gundam marker airbrush. Buy an actual airbrush. I've used Gundam markers before, and I understand the principles in which the Gundam marker airbrush works. It's not going. Buy a real airbrush. Go to Harbor Freight and buy a stupid cheap airbrush as your first airbrush, and it will still be better than that piece of crap. Um, I personally use a Badger 105, and it works great. Make sure to keep them clean. Clean them out with isopropyl and water in between painting, and they'll last you a very long time. Who else got a question? Let's go. You in the back, red.
So I don't know if this is realistic or not, but would you ever consider mixing guns together in parts of cells? How would you go about that?
Yeah, it's called kick bashing. It's actually a very popular thing amongst the Gundam World Cup builder judges. You will notice that the winners almost every year are going to be like some monstrosity of Kibble, Michael Bay Transformer looking sort of thing. Yeah. They've actually made it easier now with the new kits, the newer kits, especially in the HD double letter series stuff. So like HDUC, HDFC, HDAC, whatever the hell you want to. They have been consistently using the same sort of joints between suits. So almost every shoulder joint is going to be compatible. If you want something like an older kit, like if you want to get an old Kapool and try to mix it with something, one I wish you good luck because the old Kapool is not a good kit, and I wish they would have given us a revive instead of just the Momo Kapool. Though the Momo Kapool is great, go buy a Momo Kapool. Um, hmm? What? Yeah, what about it? Um, if you're using an older kit, though, you might need to use or even a newer kit, depending on what you want to do. Use a handsaw. You can get one of those, like a hobby saw. Citadel actually makes a good one. It's probably one of the best things Citadel makes for their pricing, because it's affordably priced. That and the little tiny miniature holder thing that they have now, which I wish I could show you guys, but it wouldn't actually be effective for Gundam at all. It's just great for miniatures. It's only like $8 and it holds it in your hand. But yeah, so you want to cut parts together, you want to splice them apart. In the Gunpla Builders Association Discord, there's been a person who's taken one of these HD Costrias and started slicing the parts of it apart to add more detail in and do basically the same sort of stuff you would do with kit bashing and crazy shit that he's using with it, just like a hobby knife and a Dremel. Kex, Harlan, bring Haros with you. Oh, well, not Haros, petite guys. Yeah, bears. Everybody loves bears, right?
They're bears.
All right. You in the green, you've actually got your hand up before everybody else. Didn't I say anything? So go for it.
Just first a quick one. How did you end up with those fortunate of an TM panel?
I put in for a panel at the last minute. They decided to give me the one Gunpla panel, and this was the time slot.
Second, I've been trying to do the hobby steps besides painting, but I do have consideration of partial painting because of like maybe one color is like off or it's not great color separation. And if you like were to have part of them were painted and part not painted, and like do that code on top of it, is there like a noticeable you can tell this part painted, this part's not painted?
There can be. It depends on the type of paint that you're using and the ultimate type of finish that you're going for. If you're going to do only partial painting, Like say you've got a kit that the color separation isn't that great on. Like a lot of the SD kits, especially for the Three Kingdoms era stuff, has garbage color separation, and they expect you to use stickers for some freaking reason. Um, Hit it with dull coat first. Use that as your primer, and go from there. And then give it another top coat after that, and it should blend together pretty nicely.
It's fine doing it in hand.
Yeah. And Tex, I'm gonna make you walk back here. Give him a nice $25 gift certificate to Secret Weapon to get some paint. All right. Let's see. Dance for me, monkeys. Dance. Yellow shirt in the back. Yellow white shirt. Yeah, you.
So I typically do 144 miles, and I try to avoid them as much as possible when there's good color separation. But I was wondering, how do you do, for example, like really high detail places like the eyes? Because I really like how, so I guess metallic, it looks when the light hits it and it's metallic, but it's a pain in the ass to get the eyes lined up, obviously, and such a like high variance in high detail area. How do you do it?
You gotta just like brute force that shit. You gotta, just not have. You gotta have steady hands, and it's not always a good thing about that. But I generally, if when it's going to be that sort of day where I need to paint the eyes or some obscene little detail on a kit, I make sure I don't have any caffeine. I make sure that I am calm, that I've taken my anxiety meds, which would be CBD if you're in California, and that generally gets me through it. Um, if you end up screwing it up, just take a break, relax. Don't worry about it. You can always paint over something. You can always strip it, dunk it in simple green, strip it off, go again, rinse, repeat. Um, Ultimately, though, if that is something that gives you an issue, I don't personally mind using stickers for the eyes if that comes down to it. Um, a wash is actually pretty good for that too. If you wanted to um, give it a dull coat or give it a gloss coat and just put a black wash around the area where the eyes are, just to give it that shadow, that can give you a very good effect and keep that shimmer a look that you like.
And just one really quick. I know that you mentioned you use chemical lessons for panel lines. So do you typically not recommend them using the marker panel line?
The Gundam panel line pen is actually like the one good Gundam marker because it's completely different from all the rest of the Gundam markers. It's actually like a Copic. A Copic marker would actually work out pretty well, though you need to make sure you let that shit dry before you try to dull coat or gloss coat it because then you're gonna have a bad time. Um, but yeah, experiment. If you do end up finding the Gundam markers to be useful, go for it. I find them to be very streaky and inconsistent in quality. Bear 'em. All right. Uh, you there in the middle there with the red maroon shirt who keeps being talkative.
I had never painted marker panel lining before, and I was really curious. Curious about ambidextrous, how people are left-handed. Is there any handicap or left-handed people when coming to paint a Gunpla?
No. I'm a righty, but my husband is a lefty, and I don't have any of his stuff here. He's not as good as me, but that's not because he's a lefty. He's just lazy. And
It's not like writing where you sometimes smudge it with your hand when you're writing.
Yeah, it's very much I will actually sometimes paint with my left hand, or I will spray with my left hand, depending on what I'm trying to do, or just how I need to hold something, or I don't know, it's Tuesday. Um, but generally, when you're painting, you're gonna be taking the kit apart to some degree anyway. So you can hold it however you need to get. I'm really sorry that this is all blurred mess over there, and I'm just not paying attention to the big screen. Just hold it however you need to and go to town. Um, Painting isn't much different from panel lining. It's just more surface gets covered in the material. Um, but you know what? You seem like the man who could use an RG talkies.
It's one less for Freddie.
uh, all right, you in the red hat in the front here. Yes, you. Dungeons and Dragons.
I've actually only recently built a Leo, the green.
Yeah.
I like to know what's the difference between HG, MG, RG.
It's a kind of it's a bit of a mix. It's a bit of a difficulty scaling. It's a bit of detail scaling. It's a bit of marketing. HG kits are going to generally be fewer parts. They're going to almost always going to be 1144. Nobody shout out about that otherwise for a second here. Older HD kits will also come in 1100 and 160, 1148, 1200, 1 goes on and on. They did a lot of HG kits in various scales. But the HG double letter series, which isn't really an official name, it's just what I like to call them. That's where your HGUC, your HGAC for Africon, HGFC for Future Century. Um, yeah, sorry. It's generally HG and then 2 more letters. Those are the newer kits. They're generally going to be the best of the HG kits. They're a really good place to start with when you're getting into Gunpla because they're going to generally be cheap, unless it's the stupid thing or the Neo Zeong, in which case it's like, holy fuck. Incidentally, I have a Neo Zeong. It's fun. It was missing 2 runners when I bought it. That was really great. Thanks, Bandai. Thanks for not having your parts service available to America. Yeah. So MGs are more parts, more details. Actually, don't have an MG up here to be able to point that out to you. They're generally going to have a better amount of color separation. HGs are going to have fewer color separations. The newer ones are much better about that. The Leo is especially one of, like, I love that Leo kit. If you haven't built a Leo yet, go buy a Leo. They're $10. They're great. Buy 50 of them. Just show Bandai that you want more After Colony stuff. One day we can get a Taurus. MGs also generally have an interior frame, which gives a bit more posability, gives a bit more detail, gives a bit more to the price tag. You also get more fun gimmick stuff, like the Hakushiki will have the undercoating, the gold coating, and be undergated, so when you cut the nubs off, you don't see that shit. PGs are perfect grades, which is what the 00 here is. They're always 160. There's only, like 15 of those currently. Generally 1 per series, except 79, which got 2. And they are almost always exclusively the main suit from that. They come out every few years, like every 5 years, they do another PG. The most recent one was the Exia, which had 2 versions of that. One came with a lighting kit. One came with a regret for not buying the lighting kit. They are the most detailed. They're going to be the most expensive. Full interior frame. Generally, some amount of lighting in them. The older ones are a little jank. Yeah, I've built almost all of them. The old ones are super fucking jank. Especially the Wing Zero. It can't support its wings. though I don't think there's a Wing Zero kit that can. Can the RG actually support the wings? No, no, the MG can't. You're lucky. RGs, I hate. Fucking hate RGs. They're hand grenades. They are 1/144 scale, but they have the detail of a master grade. They have an interior frame, and they will fall apart if you blink at them. Enjoy that Tallgeese. From what I understand, though, that the newer RGs have actually gotten better about that. I've mostly built like the first couple of them, like the 78 and the Mark II. I love the Mark II. That was such a disappointing kit. There's also crazy shit like no grades, which have almost no detail, almost no articulation, are just kind of super cheap ways of playing with painting and playing with pigments. You can buy that for like $2. Gives you something to practice on. There's mega size models, which are 1/48 scale. They're basically just big high grades, but they look cool and you can do a lot of great stuff with them. There's the hard graph kits, which are all 135, and are great for if you want to do like military scenes, because you can buy the 8th MS team kit and you get your 135 scale 8th MS team. There's the HY2M, which there are 4 kits in that series. 2 of them are 1/12 scale. They cost $4,000, and I missed out on a pre-order on that, and I'm very upset. That is a Grandpa and a Zaku too, by the way. They're meant for store displays, but who wouldn't want that in their living room? Like, come on. But the other 2 in that set are actually 1/60 scale. They're same size as Perfect Grades. They're the same detail level as a Master Grade almost. Like, I'm gonna go back to this in a minute, but they're like Re-100s but 1/60 scale. But they have full lighting kits. So that's a Dom and a Goof. They came out about 10 years ago and they haven't been reprinted since. I have Dom. I did not get the Goof. I'm upset about that. But every possible thing that you could light on that kit is lit. The chest beam, the eye, all of the thrusters. The thrusters light, they blink. It's gorgeous. If you ever see one of those things for like a reasonable price, and they retail for like $360, pick it up. Worth it. The Re-100 is a newer brand. It's a 1/100 scale, same as Master Grades, same exterior detail as Master Grades, but no inner frame. They're just meant as a means of getting you kits that otherwise wouldn't get made, but you know, people want them. People wanted that Nightingale. People wanted that Dija. People wanted that Viragina. I wanted that Viragina. I'm glad I got that. Is that it? Is that all the grades? Am I forgetting a grade?
That was a lot.
Yeah, that's a lot of grades. Like, seriously, dude, HD, MG, FPG, those are your main ones. The rest of them are just me ranting. Oh, SDs, yes, SDs. SDs are, look at this thing, it's adorable. They're little super deformed kits, chibi, if you will. There, now you can actually see the damn thing. They've done these for years. There are all sorts of crazy friggin' redesigns for things. Like this is just Night Gundam, which is not ever actually going to get an actual proper kit, unfortunately, but it's one of the most popular redesign things in SD. They also just came out with that new cross silhouette version, which kind of gives you an SD and kind of gives you not an SD, but still an SD. Yeah, cross silhouette. If you go over to Gunpla's booth, they got them on display. They can be super SD like this, but they also come with a separate frame that you can buy that expands the limbs out to give it more full proportions, while still being big-headed little robot. They're cute. They're cheap. SDs are great. They're like $5. So yeah, let's give this guy a Barbados. All right. You there in the mask. your identity hidden away.
So I was thinking, like, I just recently got a HG Flame Sniper 2,
Yeah.
and I was thinking about doing some battle damage. How would I, and it's going to be my first time, how would I go about doing that?
So there's a couple of rules of thought on that. Did I put my arm in pigment? Because I probably did. Uh, so if you want to go realistic about it, uh, and you want to be super friggin' weeaboo realistic about it, and be like, what is this mobile suit made of? In which case you need to figure out what that's made of. Since it's a UC suit, it's gonna be lunar titanium for like the armor bits, and then steel for the rest. Lunar titanium won't rust. It doesn't damage easily. Yeah, this is the sort of weird shit I know. So if you don't care about that and you just want to make it look cool, for bullet holes and whatnot, I actually use a pin vise, which is this little thing here. It's also known as a hand drill. I have somewhere in here. I didn't bring the drill bits for this to be able to show that off, but I have little tiny drill bits that you just drill into your kit a little bit. You use basically like 3rd millimeter for 144 going up from there to mimic bullet damage onto this kit. And you generally, when you're doing that, you want to consider spray patterns for how that attack hits. Man, my hand is really freaking shaky tonight. Stay hydrated. Don't get dehydrated. It's 100 fucking degrees. Don't wear a sweater when it's 100 fucking degrees. So, while most trained marksmen will be able to keep a shot pretty centered on one location, in the heat of battle, when you're just spraying bullets, you're going to see patterns go across generally. So you want to make sure, you hit it, you hit it, you hit it, you hit it, you hit it. And that'll give you a nice bit of effect to that. So once you drill the hole into it, add a little bit of black and silver to that section to give the look of the paint being infected, the scorch marks and whatnot. If you want to do more heavy damage, use a knife or a Dremel to cut into it. If you're doing a beam saber type effect, you're going to want to just slice into it, generally in 2 angles. So you go in once and you go in again. Actually, here, I don't give a shit about the genoise. Just little bits of cuts to just kind of start marking into that a little bit. This is more of a heat hawk style damage than a beam saber, but you get the general gist of it. You can also, if you're crazy and reckless, take a number 2 pencil, strip off the wood of it for a bit, and heat that shit up. Heat the graphite up, and just melt the fucking kit. Or a soldering iron will do that. Wear a mask when you do that. Don't breathe that shit in. A real mask, not that. Let's give that guy $25. Oh yeah. Yeah, sorry. I'm gonna try to do this where I look on the screen and I don't actually cut myself in the process. That's cool if I cut myself, right, guys? Yeah, that's cool. Here, let me. Yeah, here's a great shot of my boobs while I'm doing this. So it's really why everybody watches me stream. So yeah, you just go back and forth, and again, keep a sharp blade on your knife. If you're using a dull blade, this is not going to cut cleanly. You're going to end up with problems. And so there you go. It just gives a nice little bit of a chip into it. Here, folks, I'm trying to open a damn container of pigment. So just to highlight it a little bit. Like this is the wrong color to use, but there we go. Yeah, there we go. Okay, so yeah, you can kind of see it. Out of focus, but this will all be available for you guys to come look at after the show too. Oh, I was in focus for like half a second there. Also, my nails look like shit. All right, all the way in the back. Aren't you glad you volunteered for this?
Cardio. So I was building a high grade, what's it, Gunpla vehicle, I think it's like tanks or whatever. And usually, I feel like Bangla does a good job with like parts that are supposed to be multiple parts coming into one piece. They mold it pretty well, but in backlit in particular, some parts are kind of looking amorphous, like the lines aren't very defined. I was kind of wondering, what are some of your strategies dealing with that and making the high grade bits actually look good?
So it's a technique called scribbing. That's you take a chisel or a scribbing tool, and you start adding in additional detail to it. It's a technique that's a huge pain in the ass, and very easy to fuck up. So watch now as I fuck it up. So this is actually another God hand tool because I'm a super freaking weeb and I buy their stuff. I have their Figma. That's how much of a weeb I am. They have a mascot, and I bought the Figma of the fucking mascot. So generally, when you're doing this, you're gonna want to get some tape to kind of mark and figure out how to do a solid straight line. But it's a Genoese. I give no shits about age. Sorry, folks, if you love age, if that's your series. But so as you can kind of see, I'm kind of you can't see it because it's white on white, and this camera isn't gonna fucking focus. You can do this with a hobby knife as well. I'm gonna throw some pigment on top of it in a second to just highlight what the hell I've just done to this kit. Sandy. If you watch my streams, I do a lot of sanding because when you're building Gunpla, you do a lot of fucking sanding. So basically, when you do it correctly, you get a nice. God damn it, camera, focus already. You get a nice line. There we go. You can kind of see it. So there's a line across here. And the moment I move the pencil there, it goes out of focus. You use Dymo tape, which is a harder plastic tape for those Dymo label printers. You buy it from Staples. You cut it the size to where you want it to go. It gives you a nice hard line to scrib against. You can use a chisel, a scribbing tool, a hobby knife, whatever you prefer, and that gives you a good look. It's a real pain in the ass to do right and to not get asymmetrical while you're trying to do it, but I'm up. Oh. All right. I got 2 more gift certificates. I have a petite guy and a tall geese. Yeah, well, he gets the tall geese. Give him the tall geese. Hey, if I give you a petite guy, will you let me stay another 10 minutes? If I give you the petite guy, will you let me stay longer? Like, nobody else is going to use this room after this. So. That's no fair. All right. Who's cute? All right. Yeah, who's new? Who's never built a Gunpla before? All right. All right. Give this guy a Gundam in the green shirt, the green jacket. There, yeah. Green, teal, 4 guys. Okay. Yeah. All right. For the money. Who hasn't paid? Who doesn't have a job? The very enthusiastic lady in the back.
Yeah, I know the one.
Yeah. And you there in the corner. You get to come up and get it because Tex isn't going to walk over. All right.
Thank you.
That is it for my fanciful prizes of actual good worth. I do have 10% off discount coupons for Secret Weapon, which are just here on the table. Just gonna leave them there. Something happens to them. Something happens to them. Additionally, I've got 3 unused pigments and an open one. Here you go. You 4. Everybody gets pigment.
Oh, by the way, some guy did put like 100 layers of top coat on like a.
Can they get
Oh,
that?
my God,
That was
set it on fire.
the guy got.
Did somebody just take the entire stack? Oh, it's down there. Okay.
Is that confetti?
It is actually model railroad flowers.
Oh.
Yeah. Those are HO scale. Yeah. Here, let me spread out these a bit so you can take a look.
Wow, it looks small, bigger than him. I thought they were huge.
Hey, can you throw some of these down on that end? So. Yeah.
Excuse me.
Yes.
Do you have any idea how to reduce the pigment of the airbrush, size of the pigment of the airbrush?
It's dependent upon the pigment of the actual paint itself. Some paints have much thicker pigments. When you're if you go to use miniature paint like Reaper or Secret Weapon stuff, it's generally going to have the smallest pigment size, and that's really good for trying to do all that stuff. Otherwise, you need to use an airbrush for it to atomize it, which you can spray this through an airbrush. Mix it with water about 70-30, 70 paint, 30 water, and that should make it spray decently.
Yeah, because sometimes you can still see like dots.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Yeah. Take pictures of all my stuff, please.
Guys, there's cars right
Sure.
here on the side. You haven't got one.
I'm
Please come by and get one.
Gundam, and I've been trying to sand, and when I do it, it like shows like really harsh on it.
That's why you want to use multiple grades. So you start at a lower grade. So like I got 120, which I almost never use, but I generally start at 240, go up to 400, go up to 800, and that generally gets it pretty smooth. If you need to go smoother than that, get 1,000 and up, and that starts to polish it at that point. You can also use wet sanding, which is you wet the sandpaper a little bit and start smoothing it, and that gets you a little bit smoother finish. It's not always necessary, but yeah, just different grades of sandpaper. You can buy that at Home Depot. You can buy it at hobby stores. Tamaya makes a nice pack of it as well, in addition to God Hands. Yeah.
Also, sometimes when I try to cut it off from the thing, like I mess up and I cut part of it. Is there a way to repair it?
You can use putty to do that. Ketamite, which is known as green stuff in the hobby industry. It's basically just a 2-part clay that you mix together. You have about 30 minutes to deal with it, and then you just put it in the part, get it where you need it to be. You can sculpt it a little bit, and then once it's dry, sand it. If you're noticing you're having that problem a lot, though, cut away from the part, like cut them about 3 millimeters away, and once the part's off, give it another cut, and that also will give you a little bit smoother of a final finish too. No problem.
Thank you so much.
No problem.
Okay, got it.
Did you use confetti for that?
They're actually model railroad flowers. I wish my pack of them is in a different box.
I gotcha. Have you been working with like LEDs at all?
A little bit. I'm not quite good with them yet. I've got a project that needs about like 100 of the damn things, so I'm trying to figure that out.
I have a blue Destiny that I want to put like a red LED inside. I'm like, how do I do it?
There's a company called Flower Play Gaming that makes very basic LED kits. I don't want to call them basic. They're not really basic. They're just like idiot proof. Basically, just like here's the light, here's the battery. You can put them together, and it's like Lego. Those are generally small enough as well because they're meant for tabletop gaming to be able to fit into most Gundams. Though you may need to cut out some of the interior if it's like a high grade kit. Like this thing, if I wanted to light it up, I'd need to actually cut out a good chunk of that interior of the chest piece because it's thick in there. It's easier to do on some of the lesser high grades because they're pretty hollow, but the newer ones are more connection points. No problem.
I made that diorama with all the trees, and I'm not really happy with how it turned out. So I was wondering how you did the water and the grass for yours.
I used Woodland Scenics Deep Water initially for that, which is a 2-part mix. It takes 24 hours to cure. Put it on a level surface. Make sure the surface is level when you do that. So the second layer of water I put onto that to fix that issue was their realistic water, which is honestly garbage.
Oh yeah, that's the one I used.
Yeah, it's supposed to be quicker. It's supposed to be easier because it's just the one part, but it's so easy to fuck up. It will fog a lot. I actually took this entry to a different contest before this, and in transit, the realistic water on the top surface got crinkled from the protection material I used, and just it looked absolutely horrible. So I had to do another pour and fix it and do a whole bunch of shit. Realistic water is though very good for when you want to do crazy shit like put fish into the water effects. You can see right there is a little fishy. There's a little fishy there. A little fishy there. A little fishy over here. There's actually a ton of little animals hidden in this project. Wow. The grass itself, though, is from Army Painter. They're little tufts. I bought like 9 sets of tufts to do this. And those are just tweezers and bottle glue. I just use Elmer's glue. Just tweezer on, tweezer off, tweezer on. The lily pads, I use a craft hole punch. And that's just construction paper. I did put some pigment and water and washes over the paper first to give it a little bit of color variance, but yeah. Crazy stupid shit that you can do.
How long did it take you for this?
I was working on that for about 6 months. It took me like a week to build the actual Gundam and then like a day to destroy it. So yeah, I used a hobby saw to cut the limbs off. The wirings are all from a USB cable, just a dead iPhone cable.
Do you want to keep answering questions outside while we practice for you?
Yeah, I can do that.
They're kicking us out.
Okay, yeah. Sorry about that, folks. Okay.
Do you still want that Gundam?
He wants a pre-built kit. No one gets those.
He wants to know how to see this one, I guess. How you do it. So he wanna. Now you know.
I have a question. When it comes to moss parts, because I was building a RG Banshee.
Oh yeah. Hey, while you're still here, totally follow my Twitch stream. That's one of the cards there.
Wait, what parts?
Right there. Yeah.
I was building a RG Banshee arm that I lost the shoulder piece. How would you recommend I deal with that?
There's 2 methods of doing that. We walk outside while they're kicking us out. I'll answer it while I'm walking. Sorry, guys.
I got some, sorry, I need paperwork from the other kids, you know.
I'm over here.
Yeah, let's
So there's 2 ways you can go about doing it. You can either choose to recap.
Oh.
We did good.
Thanks.
There is
Try.
actually a way to use Bandai's part replacement service. If you send me a message on Twitter.
No, this is the one that goes on the bottom.
What do you need me to carry?
Can you pack up the? She's got the leather. There's a padding leather shirt. And she's missing
icicles on this?
Yes, she does on the shield and on the skirt. And there's one on the backpack if you're.
Don't want to turn it. That's touching. You can't touch it with your hand. You
She
touch
told
it,
you.
Touch it with your eyes.
That was a Michael's brown.
That's it.
prescriber doesn't have a.
And then is that, where's that thing of pigment that she opened and then I don't think you closed?
It's not here. It's the brown one. Should I put it in her pocket?